Is how should India respond to the Uri terror attack? To discuss that, we are joined by Jaidev Ranade, his strategic affairs analyst, and PR Chakrabarti, former senior diplomat. I welcome you both to Newsnight. I'll begin with you, Mr. Ranade. What do you make of Indian Army's statement that it reserves the right to respond at a time and place of its choosing?
Well, I would say that if I want to be pessimistic, that we've heard such statements before, but this time I think the difference is that we've had warnings issued, we've had assertions made at the highest levels of the government. So this time I would take their statement seriously, and I think the Indian Army will respond with government authority at the right time. But the only thing is that the response will have to be something that the people can observe, and it has to be meaningful, it has to be effective.
Okay. Does that also mean that Pakistan cannot force the timing of a counter-response by India?
Yes, certainly. It will be when we choose to respond. I'm sure we'd have figured out how to respond, which targets to strike, and that is when we'll do it. But at the same time, I have been reading about the statements coming in from other countries, condoling, condoling with us, and expressing deep concern and shock at the attack. But I think they have to go beyond the statements. They have to start isolating Pakistan, which is the source of this terror. People like Masood Azhar are active. You can see them on Pak TV. They are holding demonstrations. They are leading protest marches. There has to be firm action taken. Otherwise, I'm afraid it's meaningless.
Okay. Mr. Chakrabarti, what according to you should be the options on the table for India? Should they only be diplomatic, or should India consider using non-diplomatic options as well against Pakistan?
I think all options must be on the table. No options must go off the table. But let me go back to all this international condemnation and statements of sort of condolences and things like that. We should not get carried away by that. I don't think the big powers are going to do anything because they see it as the usual India-Pakistan kind of duality. So I don't think, but this narrative and script could change if India does think of retaliation, and then there will be a change of the script. But otherwise, generally what has happened is that Pakistan attacks, we absorb the attack, and we basically don't do anything, anything visible, I mean. And so the whole range of options must be on the table, both overt and covert. And I think the time has now come to really beef up our efforts to ensure that Pakistan pays a cost for all these misadventures. Otherwise, it is getting off very easily.
It indeed
People have talked of what consequences that would flow from our actions. But let us see what consequence. Let us look at Pakistan's decision making. They continue to do this. Obviously, they think through the consequences, and their conclusion has obviously been that India will not react. So I think we have to change that script.
Right. But you were talking about the response of the international community, Mr. Chakrabarti. There was a time when a former CIA official has said that in 1993-1994, the US administration had nearly put Pakistan into the list of state sponsors of terrorism. Can we make US see reason and bring that back on the drawing board?
I do not foresee the US putting Pakistan on the list of state sponsors of terrorism. This is a threat which the US uses against Pakistan to get its own deals with Pakistan. No, every country looks at its own interest. While US is interested and we have a good relationship with the US, I can guarantee, is not going to give up on Pakistan, and don't expect the US to put any sanctions on Pakistan. They have a very old relationship with the Pakistan army, and they don't want to jeopardize it for their own reason. And one of them, of course, is Afghanistan. The other is that they will continue to want this relationship with the Pakistan army, which obviously they see and the whole world sees as the real power center in that country. And as for China, I think China is only going to make some anodyne noises. but China has invested too much in Pakistan, which is now its client state. So I don't see China, apart from making some anodyne statements about India and Pakistan should get together, and those are those goody-goody statements that they will make. International sanctions, unless there is a threat of international sanctions or some sanctions, Pakistan is unlikely to change its behavior.
Okay, so should
Because
that be the message
that this is the
that
low-cost
India
option
should give out as far
India,
as...
and they will continue to exercise this option.
Okay, so you are saying that the option which would make Pakistan understand the consequences of what it has done is imposition of economic sanctions by the international community on Pakistan. So should India pitch for
Not
it
just
when it
economic
goes...
sanctions. I said there has to be a range of issues,
Okay.
range of options.
Absolutely.
Economic
You said there should be a range
just
of...
one of them.
Absolutely. Okay. So now the question is that should that be India's pitch when it goes to the UNGA?
I think India has to do two things simultaneously. One, it has to deliver a hard, effective message to Pakistan directly. It is only when it does that that the other countries will also take us seriously. And that is when the teeth will be given to the sanctions. As he said, the anodyne statements that are being made, they have to be backed up with muscle by these countries. And Pakistan, unless they isolate Pakistan, unless they apply economic sanctions on Pakistan, things are not going to change. Pakistan itself feels emboldened because of its new friendship, new elevated friendship with China, and the manner in which the Chinese have been backing them. On the one hand, they talk about international terror. On the other hand, they are putting blocks on us in the case of acknowledged terrorists, people on international and UN and US lists like Masood Azhar. So unless that changes, things will not really change on the ground, and therefore it is necessary that we administer a sharp, decisive and effective message to Pakistan. It is only then that the text will change, if I may say.
Mr. Chakrabarti, would you say that the options of hot pursuit, surgical strikes or precision strikes, as far as the terror camps in POK and other parts of, and in fact in parts of Pakistan are concerned, should those options be kept open by India?
As I said, all options must be on the table. No option must be off the table. So whatever you have mentioned are all options. But then this cannot be discussed by us here in a studio. This is a matter of government policy, government action, which is obviously going to be taken after much consideration and debate. And hence, but I'm quite sure that such a debate has taken place earlier and is currently taking place, and I think such choices are being made at the moment. But I don't know when. The time, as the general said on television, that the time, etc., will be of our choosing, and so we'll just have to wait and see what exactly happens.
Okay. Now, Braham Dag Bukti, the Baloch leader, has said that he will be applying for political asylum to India. Besides that, he's also said that he has decided to move the International Criminal Court against present and former generals of the Pakistani Army and the ISI chiefs. And he said that he expects more practical support from India as far as the Baloch cause is concerned. Is it time that India ups the ante even more on Balochistan and shames Pakistan's human rights violations record at international fora?
I certainly feel that we need to support the Baloch movement, give them moral support, give them diplomatic support, as the case may be. But as far as shaming Pakistan is concerned, I'm afraid that my view is that they are beyond shaming. They have been so blatant in their actions. In Balochistan, in their own NWFP, and vis-a-vis us, that it will have to be something more strong, which will really make them change their policy. As far as the Baloch issue is concerned and his applying for asylum, that in itself is a strong message to the people in Balochistan and elsewhere. And I think we will see that giving momentum to the popular movements already underway inside Pakistan.
Okay. What would you say are the lessons, Mr. Chakrabarti, that India should learn after the Uri attack, which is one of the worst on the Indian Army in the past several years?
Well, one lesson is quite obvious, and that is that Pakistan will not change its behavior unless it has to pay a cost, and particularly the Pakistan army, because they are the ones who are behind all this and nurturing all these terrorists, Jaish-e-Mohammed and the LET and others to come and do all these things in India. So one lesson is very clear, that unless Pakistan calculates that there will be consequences for them, and which will cost them and which will cause hurt and pain, then only they will change their policy. So India has to factor that in. So that is a lesson that India has, I suppose, India knows, but I think India has shown basically what we call strategic restraint and said, okay, let us absorb this and let's see how we can engage Pakistan, and the Prime Minister has tried that several times. But I think now that narrative has to end, and we have to change the script, as I said earlier, and we have discussed the kind of options, and I have said again, and I repeat, that all options must be on the table. We have to pick and choose at our moment and with our timing.
According to you, Mr. Ranade, what are the lessons that India should learn from this?
Well, I think the first lesson is that, yes, you must follow the path of peace and overtures, but there's a limit to it. And I think what we are seeing today is the result of our extended patience that we have shown to Pakistan. The second thing is that we now have to retaliate in a manner that imposes heavy costs on Pakistan. There are various ways in which it can be done. It doesn't necessarily have to be hot pursuit. There are various army actions that can be taken, but it will have to be action that has a visible effect and impact on Pakistan. And I think domestically also, the people here would like to see action. And this is a democratically elected government. It has to be sensitive to what the people want. And if I may conclude with just one point, that in the past slightly over a year, we have all seen the temperatures in Kashmir rise, if I may say. And that has happened ever since. Pakistan and China have come closer. It has felt more emboldened to take action against us, and we have not really responded in the manner that we should. I think they have miscalculated, Pakistan has miscalculated, and possibly they will realize that there is another agenda now before this government which is not going to take, or another policy outlook of this government which is not going to accept such attacks on its
Absolutely. So both of you are of the view that no option should be foreclosed at this stage. All options should be explored. Thank you so much, Mr. Chakravarti and Mr. Ranade, for having joined us on Newsnight tonight.
Thank you.